Now, as you can likely see in the trees behind me, and you might hear in my microphone throughout the video, it's a little bit windy here today in Florida. And for a lot of golfers, when they step onto the golf course and they see wind, you know, they can feel it in their arms, they can see it in the flags, they panic a little bit. They don't know how to approach it. So I'm gonna give you a few simple principles to improve how you can golf and improve how you can hit shots and be more comfortable when playing golf in the wind. Now, the first thing that a lot of golfers get caught up in is the yardages that they're playing into. So if you have 150 yards, how does that wind coming into your face affect you, and how does that tailwind affect you? Now, as a general rule of thumb, if the wind is at your back and it's helping you, you're going to add a yard for every mile per hour of wind estimated that is at your back. So if you have a 150 yard shot into the green and you feel about 10 miles an hour of wind at your back helping your shot, then that is going to be 10 yards of helping wind. So that 150 yard shot becomes a 140 yard shot. Now, it is important to note that that is a generalization. It depends on how high you hit the ball, how spinny you hit the ball, uphill, downhill, but just as an overall generalization, you're gonna count for 1 yard of help for every mile an hour at your back. Now, for a headwind or wind that is coming into you, you're going to add 1 yard for every 2 miles an hour of wind. So if you go back to the 150 yard example, if we have 10 miles an hour of wind into the face, we're going to be adding 5 yards to that total, meaning that from 150 yards, 10 miles into the face, we're going to be playing that around 155 yards. Now, again, it is important to note that those are both generalizations about the wind, but that's just going to help you kind of key in a little bit to having a better yardage, because I know the feeling of stepping up and hitting a good shot in the wind and your yardage is just totally off. You're 20 yards short of the green. I understand how frustrating it can be, so it's important to try and work away from it. It's also helpful to understand how this affects your ball off the tee. So now for me, I hit a left to right cut. I hit a very spinny golf shot, and that's fine. I can play it. But when you're hitting that shot in the wind really accelerates any spin. So if you kind of hit a knuckleball off the tee and that's just kind of your shot, a straighter shot, the wind isn't going to touch that nearly as much as it would touch a spinnier golf shot off the tee. So just understanding how the spin is accentuated pretty heavily in the wind is also something that's very important to note in your alignment off the tee. And finally, a very important note when playing into the wind is to manage your expectations. I think that a lot of golfers will go out and say the past 3 days they've shot 85, and then they show up to the golf course and it's windy, the course might be a little bit firmer, a little bit more hard pan around the greens, and they still expect to shoot an 85. But that's just not a reasonable expectation. And I think in golf, managing expectations is a super important part of what we do. So when you're on the golf course, you're playing into the wind, understand that it's going to be more difficult. Understand that there are going to be shots that you strike well that just don't end up as good as they would otherwise without the wind. So the managing of the expectations, understanding how your yardages vary, and understanding that your spin, especially off the tee, is very accentuated. Once you have those 3 things down and you play a few rounds in the wind and become more comfortable with them, I think you guys are going to start seeing some better play. And again, your average scoring might be a little bit higher in the wind just inherently, but if you're playing against your buddies in a round and you're all playing against the wind, all playing the same conditions, I'm sure you're going to be beating them and maybe getting some money off of them on the golf course real soon if you use these tips. Let me know if you have any additional tips for playing in the wind. I know that a lot of people really like it. Some people absolutely hate it. I personally like it. It allows you to be a little bit more creative and maybe hit some shots that you don't normally hit. But leave any comments in the comment section down below. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Play well and take care.